What's up, Internet? This is the A4th Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of Wolf Watches. Today we'll be going over RWBY Volume 6, Episode 6, Alone in the Woods. And let me just say straight up, this is what this volume needed. This was such a good episode. It's definitely one of my favorite episodes. It's just so interesting and creepy. It's just so much leads up to it, like a lot of little things. There's a new Grimm that's introduced that's really cool, and it's not like a big bad boss like it was in Volume 4. It's an actual legitimate threat that is common. Like, it isn't as terrifying or strong as other Grimm, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just really excited to share what I saw and what I think of this thing. So again, as always, if you have not seen Episode 6, highly recommend go watch it now, then watch this. Don't watch this out of order. I am really excited, so I am going to spoil the hell out of this. So the episode opens up, everyone's just kind of trying to relax, or everyone's very subdued and just quiet. Crow is kind of by himself, just keeping watch over everything, and RWBY goes up to him, and Crow's just like, tell everyone to get some sleep. We're gonna get up really early tomorrow, and we're gonna get out of this place. It's creepy, the storm's let up, and we need to get on our way. And it's also important to note that while Crow is on watch, it's obviously he's been drinking a little bit excessively. He's not pure drunk there, but he's pre-gaming. He's got a whole bunch of alcohol, and RWBY is very worried about it. She's very worried about the whole thing. So before they go to sleep, Maria reveals that she's been reading books that have been scattered around the house, and it turns out it's a diary of the farm. They're all written by, I guess, the person that was in charge, whose name was Bartleby. And I've been trying to look up any kind of references, and the only one that I've really been able to find is Bartleby the Scrivener. I think that's how you pronounce it. And there's just a lot of little things in the story that kind of reflect what's going on. And he moves away from the kingdom to start his own kind of business. He wields a lot of power privately, so like he can refuse to do stuff. So in this case, he was trying to find ways of cutting costs around the farm. And in the story, he eventually gives up, not give up, but he stops eating, takes on more work, but eventually he kind of just wastes away, which is what happened in the house. But anyway, Maria shares before everyone goes to sleep that he had taken a group of people, kind of like of what Mountain Glen did. They kind of took a bunch of people and moved out of the kingdom to try to set something up, but a much smaller scale. Maria also mentions that Bartleby was a little bit eccentric. He had a lot of what I think she calls them schemes to make life better. And as far as what's been explained, most of them seem to work. So he was definitely smart and resourceful, and had strange solutions to these problems that have been propping up around the farm. Mostly Grimm related, but I'm sure there was other problems like bandits or not getting the proper equipment or seeds or food or anything like that. But apparently he's found a way to survive. So everyone goes to sleep, and the next time they wake up, it looks like it's mid-morning, maybe even early afternoon. RWBY is actually the one that wakes up due to Crow accidentally dropping one of his bottles of alcohol that he passed out holding. So everyone is just super tired. They don't want to get up. Crow especially, RWBY tries to wake him up, and he's just like, leave me alone, go away, I'm really tired. And RWBY actually loses her temper for real for the first time, as far as I think. There had been some cold anger before with RWBY, but this is the first time she actually acts out and throws one of the bottles against the wall, and Crow just jerks awake, and he realizes what he did was wrong. He wanted to get up at dawn to get out, and they overslept, and he's a little apologetic, but at the same time it's just this aura of just sleepiness and tiredness, even though they slept through the entire night. RWBY does, however, open up and say, hey, Crow, you can talk to me and Yang about this. I know that this has hit you pretty hard, but Crow just kind of dismisses it and is like, all right, I'm sorry for what happened, but let's just start getting out of here. And again, everyone finally gets up, but they're just so lethargic. They talk about making breakfast, but nobody wants to do it. And it takes effort for them just to hook up Bumblebee to the flatbed that they found. Of course, right before they hook up the flatbed, one of the tires blow, and it's probably due to Crow's bad luck. Which I have to say, if stuff like that happened every time, like I'm sure it happens to Crow, I would be really pissed. I really hate this semblance. Of course, it doesn't help that Maria says, "Aren't you all just beacons for bad luck?" And Crow is just like, it's like, I am trying my hardest not to punch this old lady in the face. So the tire exploding kind of triggers this conversation that Weiss actually brought up in the previous episode. You know, why are they going to Atlas? And everyone's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, we're just delaying the inevitable. It's just not worth it. Why are we doing this? Why aren't we trying to escape? Or why are we even doing anything to that matter? And it makes sense. I mean, even Yang brings up, like, you know, first there's Grim attacks, then there's the crash, then just the whole revelation of everything that they're doing is kind of worthless, I mean, from this perspective. And then finally Yang just says, you know what, Ozpin kind of, when he hid the relics, he hid them behind giant doors under giant schools. You know, what's stopping us from just hiding the relic here, just buried in the ground somewhere, and, you know, when are they gonna find it? They'll probably find it eventually, but I mean, by that time, everyone around will probably be dead. So Yang just says, just throw it down the well that's in the center of the farm, and, you know, sure, they'll find it eventually, but at least it won't be our problem anymore. And RWBY actually agrees with this, and she also says she's just tired of fighting. She's holding the relic over the well, and it's clear that she's fighting her feelings. And then finally she just takes a deep breath, and it looks like she actually succeeded in, like, she's gonna take the relic back, but she looks down into the well and these two big red eyes appear, and she accidentally drops it. RWBY, of course, is freaking out, but, you know, the rest of the gang is like, well, you just said you were tired, you know, we were gonna do this anyway, you probably just imagined it, but RWBY is dead sure she saw something and will not leave unless they get the lamp back. So reluctantly, the rest of Team RWBY says, alright, we'll go into the well and try and get this stupid thing. Oscar stays behind to fix the tire, Maria stays to read her book, and Crow decides to go into the bar room and just start drinking. Does Crow ever suffer from a hangover? I think that's his real semblance. So Team RWBY jumps inside the well, and it's very shallow in the well, and there's these tunnels that just stretch on it looks like it stretches on forever. They're unable to find the relic at the bottom, so they think, well, maybe this shallow water, you know, had it drift away, so they start going into the tunnels to try and find it. So this scene is cut periodically between that scene and the scene where Maria is looking at the diary, and there's references to a solution and something that Huntsman had pointed out to Bartleby in some kind of problem that he has an idea of how to fix. So as RWBY finds the relic, Maria turns the next page, and right at the top of the page, it's just titled The Apathy, and there's a picture of a Grim on the opposite page. RWBY looks up from holding the relic and sees the Apathy right in front of her, and there's dozens of them. And they are creepy. There's just these long bodies, long arms, long legs and fingers. Like, if they stood up straight, which they actually can't, if they stood up straight, their arms and fingers would probably be dragging the floor. It's really creepy, and they can't hold themselves up. They're just listless. They're like zombies. So RWBY backs up, and the rest of the gang sees the Apathy, and RWBY tries to start shooting at them, but the Apathy start this scream, and as everyone else tries to ready their weapons, they realize that they don't have energy anymore. Suddenly everything is so much heavier, they move so much slower. So the Apathy have this call that just drains your energy, drains your will. And I'm not sure, but I think that the echoes around would probably amplify the effect. If anything, it would explain how it affected everyone on the farm. So Maria gets into the well too, which I'm not quite sure how she made it to the bottom being so old, but I'll just deal with it. And just says, we can't beat them, we gotta run. And it's true, there are so many of them, and even a couple of shots from Ruby's scythe, it doesn't seem to injure them too well. And there's just too many of them, and if they scream again, they're just gonna collapse. So they try to get back to the opening of the well, but now they're cut off by even more apathy that were coming in from the different direction. So they have no choice but to just try to go through the tunnels and try to find a new way out. And as they run, more and more apathy are coming out, chasing them. And I mean, the only good thing about these things is that they're slow, but that doesn't mean that they're any less dangerous, because there are a lot of them. So they go through this hole in the wall and they find themselves in a sub-basement, and there's yet more apathy in there. So they try to run up the stairs to the exit, and the apathy scream again, and most of the gang just collapse on the spot. Blake herself, who is closest to the apathy, just collapses, and when Ruby says, you know, Blake, get up, you gotta keep moving, Blake just says, it's fine. And that is, I don't know why, but I find that the creepiest. Like, there's just these horrible demonic creatures over there, and she literally just gives up so calmly. As one of the apathy actually reached towards Blake, Ruby's eyes finally shine silver, and this blast of energy comes out, and it really hurts the apathy. It doesn't kill any of them, but it really hurts them, and actually kind of gives a boost to everyone around her. So they're able to, Blake is actually able to get up and move further away from them. So Weiss tries to open the hatch at the top of the stairs, and it turns out it's locked. And Yang is like, you know, get out of the way, I'll try to blast it open. But just before she's about to do that, the apathy scream again and just drain the remaining energy from everyone. Like, the only one that can move at this point is Maria. So Maria actually manages to crawl over to Ruby and says, Ruby, what color are your eyes? Ruby, of course, says they're silver, and Maria knows immediately what to do. And she tells Ruby, think of all your friends, your family, your loved ones. Think of life itself and how important it is and how it needs to be protected. So I'm still a little unsure of how the silver eyes actually work, but Ruby, it just kind of clicks inside her head, and she sits up and her eyes just flash even brighter and just disintegrates all the apathy that are in front of her. And again, this gives everyone kind of like the boost they needed. So Yang finally punches the hatch and it breaks, and it turns out it was the hatch that we saw chained up in the house in the previous episode. And in the next room, Crow is just passed out, and he had heard nothing of what was going on. Most of the team runs out to kind of like get everything ready, warn Oscar, and just get everything finished so they could get the hell out of there. Ruby says something to help Crow get back up, and Weiss starts throwing alcohol into the cellar, and Crow still has no idea what's going on, and he's like, well, what are you guys doing? Why are you getting rid of all the alcohol? You know, where's the rum gone? Okay, he doesn't say that, but it would have been funny. So Weiss sets the alcohol on fire, which is burning up the apathy that was left down in the cellar that weren't killed by Ruby. She just helps Ruby drag Crow out, who is still complaining and stuff like that, and he finally looks up and sees the apathy on fire, and the look on his face is almost of terror. He didn't realize how close all of them were to dying, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. So as the farm is burning, everyone gets on the flatbed, Yang jumps on Bumblebee, and gets the hell out of there. As they're driving away, Maria finally shares some of the information that was in the diary, more about the apathy, how they're not quite as strong or vicious, but in big groups they will drain your will. It turned out Barley had tried to cut huntsman costs by not hiring any, but how do you protect yourself from Grimm in that case? Well, you try to do basically rend semblance and try to keep everyone as calm as possible. And apparently, one or two apathy aren't as dangerous as an entire herd of them. So Bartleby had actually managed to capture two of them, stick them in the cellar, and lock it up. The next day, he went out to seal away the waterway tunnels, but by the time he did and finished it, the rest of the pack had found the two that were locked away, entered the waterway, so now all of them are under the house, and Bartleby never realized. So instead of everyone being calm all the time, everyone just eventually wasted away and died in their sleep. By the end of the story, the team just kind of reaffirms that, you know, what we said before, we were affected by the apathy, and we want to still go to Atlas. And at this point, Ruby finally asks Maria, how do you know so much about Grimm? How do you know about my silver eyes? And how did you know a way to make me use them? And Maria just simply says, I had silver eyes. And that brings us to the end of the episode. It was so good. I felt this is exactly what Volume 6 needed. One of the better episodes by far, and it was just getting, again, it was just kind of getting boring. Like I said in the last episode, the last two, it was just, everyone's just kind of going to Atlas and everyone's really depressed, but now there's this whole, they might have been affected by the apathy as well as their own feelings. Even the previous episode, everyone kept talking about how they were tired and stuff like that, so that was probably the apathy affecting them at, little by little. What I think is really interesting though, is the fact that Ruby was the least affected. Now, I don't know if this is because of her personality, or her soul, or maybe even her silver eyes. It does seem like she was able to dispel this energy loss through her silver eyes. So maybe by the fact that she actually has them, she was not affected by apathy as much as the others. Or it could be just her nature being one that always wants to help others, while the rest of the team is a little bit more selfish, for lack of a better term. Like, they all have their own reasons to be huntsmen and huntresses. Even what was said in Volume 2 about Ruby, like, she always wanted to grow up and be a hero, be a proud huntress that only helps other people with, never seeking a reward. And the rest of Team RWBY acknowledged that in Volume 2 while they were stationed in Mountain Glen. So I think it's a little bit of both. I want to know more about the Silver Eyes, and I hope that we get a little bit more information of what their capabilities are in the next episode. As well as finally, let's talk about this whole situation with Oz, because that's still long overdue. I don't necessarily want Oz to come back just yet. Like, I think he should still remain in his isolation, but I still want the characters to talk about it. Despite what the apathy may or may not have made them say, it's still a huge problem. And some of these feelings that the apathy made them say are things that the viewers have, and we're not affected by apathy. So I think next episode is going to be pretty good. In this episode was just fantastic. It's what this volume needed. And finally, I want to talk about Crow. This episode, Crow was the seventh wheel. He literally didn't do anything, and he was just depressed the whole time. He neglected his duties. He's just been drunk. And just the look on his face when he saw the apathy coming out of the cellar and realizing that's where everyone was, and he didn't know about it. Like, what happens if Ruby wasn't able to use her silver eyes and they died literally about 15 feet away from Crow? If Crow even found out about it before he succumbed to apathy, I think that's what's going through his head. They could have died, I probably would have died, and I would never have known. I let these kids die because I was so busy wallowing in my self-pity. And yes, some of it was because of apathy, but a lot of it was because of the revelations with Ozpin. So I don't know how Crow is going to react in the next episode, whether or not he'll try to, get away from everyone because he still thinks he's the bad luck charm, or if he's gonna finally step up and be like, I need to stop feeling sorry for myself, and I need to start taking more responsibility for these kids who have proven themselves to be more competent than I am. I don't know. I just love thinking about how, pardon my language, but I really like the idea of Crow being miserable like this and just seeing where that direction would go. Crow is one of my goddamn favorite characters, so I don't want him to be miserable, but it's character development. You have to suffer in order to get stronger. That's just life. Anyone who's had an easy time with life doesn't learn anything. It's only with miserable experiences and failure can you actually learn from them. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, but anyone who... I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. Being successful all your life doesn't change your behavior. So I'm really, really excited to see the next episode, if only just to see what everyone's reaction is. I hope this is the part where, like I said in the last episode, I hope everyone's like, this is this is kind of like the catalyst we needed. This is the break in the ice we needed to finally focus on the main things. Seeing how the Argus train crashed and now we have Cinder and Neo chasing the team, I can't wait to see them just clash, because they've had some time to catch up. Also, it'd be really nice if we could see Jean and Team Juniper again. I mean, they're important too, and I really miss them. And I just want to see their interaction with how they perceive how Ozpin has been treating them, the stuff he's been hiding, their overall mission. And I mean, that's gonna be a day. If anything, I mean, this could be the thing I've been looking forward to like the whole time, where Jean just gets pissed at Ozpin because of Pyrrha. We haven't seen any emotional fallout since Volume 4 about anything with Pyrrha, and I think it needed to be addressed earlier. It's such an important event in Team Juniper and Ruby's life of Pyrrha's death, and they rarely if ever talk about it. I mean, I understand they don't want to talk about it, but it's something I want to see happening in an episode. So the potential of all this stuff obviously won't be explained in one episode, but this is how excited I am for the next few, and I hope Rooster Teeth does it well. You're on it. You kind of hit a snag, I think, with episodes 4 and 5, but 6 was a good kickstart, and I hope you can continue that trend. So what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Was there something I missed? Do you want to see some of the stuff that I mentioned with Crow, Jean, and the rest of the gang? Like, comment, and share the video. This is the 84th Wolf, and I'll see you guys next time.